Peace. What's good? How y'all doing? Welcome to another edition of 60 Days of History with ZaZa Ali. Today is day 9. What are we talking about today? The Blackamoors. Were the Moors black? And this is one of the larger chapters in the book, chapter 2. And I want to say something before I get into this because I understand that in this particular, world topic, when it comes to identifying ourselves in terms of lineage, in terms of land, in terms of, culture, and even bloodline. This is a topic that is touchy for some people because the minute that you use the word black, there's this offspring of a conversation about it being a color crayon type thing, and then it goes into etymology, it goes into a lot of other things, and I used to do that like 10, 15 years ago, but I don't anymore, because I am 100% comfortable with everybody's where you are in your awareness and understanding what works for you in terms of how you identify and even your perspective about how we should all be identifying, right? But I also want to caution all of us that sometimes we need to be able to just come to the table and look at and value and appreciate our history. And that is what ancient people is all about. And I write about this in the introduction where I give the Black, African, Hebrew, dark skin, Aboriginal, original, Asiatic, all of these different terms that we identify ourselves. Like that's one of the first things I say in the intro. And then I follow it up by saying that all of those terms are honored here, right? So if you feel like you want to start an argument because I use the term blackamoor, which can be considered in some which is considered, excuse me, in some circles as a disrespectful term. But then it also became an important term because when they started to whitewash a lot of the Moors in Spain and all throughout Europe, that terminology of blackamoor was still written in the history books. It was still, sort of inked in the historical ledger, if you will. And so it's one of the ways that we can sort of squash the argument, word of Moor is black. Of course they were. Where do you think the term blackamoor comes from? So when I say word the Moor is black, I'm getting ready to read a passage that's what this whole video today is about. Actually, let me just read the passage. I'll do that. And as you can see, this beautiful brother in all of his flightness with his crown on and his jewels, and yeah, he's like real swag out like I would imagine he's like a prince of his day in terms of his attire, right? And you can see little man right here holding on to his coattail, probably highly impressed and impacted by his presence. Excuse me. Okay, so there are whitewashed images represented in popular culture of most of the Muslim scholars, leaders, warriors, and kings featured in this chapter. Why is my video not playing? There is an ongoing campaign in modern history to hide the fact that these big men were indeed Africans and or native Black Arabs who left behind plenty of wonderful art, sculptures, and images all over Europe to prove that they were here. Ivan van Sertima said the original Black Berbers, who were called Moors, were the North African ancestors of the present-day dark brown and brown-black peoples of the Sahara and the Sahel. During the European Renaissance, explorers, writers, and scholars began to apply the term Moor to Blacks in general. In old times, the people of Africa were called Ethiops and Nigrite, which we now call Moors, Morans, or Negroes. In the Romance languages, which is Spanish, French, and Italian of medieval Europe, Moor was translated as Moro, Moir, and Moor. In Spanish, the word for blackberry is mora, a noun which originally meant Moorish woman. In French, maricade means dark-skinned or blackamoor, while Morelan means black grape. Also in Italian, mora means Negro or Moor female. In Italian, mora means blackberry, while moralia, I hope I'm saying that right, means black olive. And so this is just some context for us because, again, while we are arguing over the legitimacy of the titles, these people, when the Moors went into Europe and into Spain, they were hailed as heroes. They weren't conquerors. These people were living under very extreme and devastating or detrimental conditions, right? And so the Moors came through as saviors, and a lot of the people praised them being there, praised how well. We'll get into that in another. Getting ready to go into all of the logistics, but let me stay on point. The people whom the classical Greek and Roman authors called Berber were mainly Black and connected to the contemporary peoples of the East African area at the time. The word Berber was used in fact to refer to peoples of the Red Sea area in Africa as well as North Africans. It was an ancient belief that the nomads dwelling in the deserts of Arabia were the same people whose ancestors had in earlier times roamed the deserts of East Africa. It was these populations that largely made up the Moorish people, called Moors from the Greek Mauris, the Roman Maris or dark, because of the attribute of blackness which sharply distinguished them from the bulk of the European people. However, the people of present-day North Africa are considered ethnically and culturally different from people living in the south of the Sahara. This is only so today because of the large influx of Europeans during the white slave trade and their later movement in positions of dominance after the defeat of the Moors. The original Black Berbers, who were called Moors, were the North African ancestors of the present-day dark brown and brown Black peoples of the Sahara and the Sahel. These people were mainly called Fulani, Taureg, Zenagha of Southern Morocco, Kunta and Tebbu of the Sahel countries, as well as other Black Arabs now living in Mauritania and throughout the Sahel. They include the Traza of Mauritania and Senegal, the Mogarba, as well as dozens of other Sudanese tribes, and the Chamba of Chad and Algeria. Dana Reynolds, the anthropologist, also points out that the Africans involved in the Moorish occupation of Spain did not just build remarkable things in Europe, but also in their native lands. They founded and constructed many industrious and prosperous towns all over North Africa and as far as Timbuktu. The ruins of their many castles can be seen as much in northern Africa as in Andalusia. The Moors, according to the Oxford Dictionary, are people who are commonly supposed to be Black or very dark-skinned, and it is synonymous with the word for Negro in many contexts. Runoko Rashidi and Brunson will provide numerous examples of the synonym of Moor with Black during the European Renaissance and earlier. The most important identifier, of course, is to be found in medieval paintings and sculptures. In spite of certain prejudices of the Muslim world, we are grateful that the Christians left vivid images of the Black Muslims. And you can see those vivid images on your screen right now. There are a lot of in this particular chapter to sort of double down on all of the things that various scholars and historians, Reynolds, who was referenced here, and Sertima, who was one of my teachers. And there's a plethora of information, but then more importantly, we have all of these very live, beautiful, vivid covers of these Black and Africans who went into Europe and who ruled and who civilized. And of course, you can see the sister down there too, but who ruled and civilized Moorish Spain or Andalusia, Al-Andalusia, for 800 years. Ancient People is a social studies and history textbook by ZaZa Ali, a full-color 349-page historical expose focused on ancient civilizations around the world. Available in paperback and hardcover, this book places emphasis on vocabulary, spelling, critical thinking, and more. There are more than 450 photos in the book as well. Hawaii's last monarchy, the Moors in Spain, the Kandakis of Ethiopia and Kush, the African presence in Asia, and Pharaoh Hatshepsut in the 18th dynasty. I will put the link in the description for more information, or you can go to my website, zazaali.com. Peace and love.